Skynet, the virus has infected Skynet.
Skynet is the virus!
Skynet has become self-aware. In 1 hour, it will initiate a massive attack on its enemy.
What enemy?
Us! Humans!
The future of humanity has become a black highway at night, as we are entering into uncharted territory due to our ignorance of the history of our distant past. This is Tom Wheeler, who became chairman of the Federal Communications Commission in 2013 after delivering a $700,000 campaign contribution to President Obama. He was nominated chairman about a month later and is now one of the main psychopaths pushing the 5G agenda.
Turning innovators loose is far preferable to expecting committees and regulators to define the future. We won't wait for the standards. We're already seeing the industry gearing up to seize this opportunity. Verizon and AT&T tell us they'll begin deploying 5G trials in 2017, and the first commercial deployments they're talking about are expected in 2020. And we're not done. If anyone tells you that they know the details of what 5G is going to become, run the other way. If something can be connected, it will be connected. Hundreds of billions of microchips connected in products from pill bottles to plant waterers. We must reject the notion that the 5G future will be the sole provenance of urban areas. The 5G revolution will touch all corners of our country. America's local governments will play an important role in determining how we fulfill this national priority. You can be sure of only one thing. The biggest Internet of Things application has yet to be imagined. Tens of billions of dollars in economic activity. And that's damn important.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Then do it. And Brewster, this thing works. You get all the funding you ever need.
Tens of billions of dollars.
So all that matters is tens of billions of dollars. He said if something can be connected, it will be connected. Hundreds of billions of microchips. But let's hear what other people have to say about this as well.
5G. So right now we're at a lower frequency, like 1 to 3 gigahertz. This is now 24 to 90 gigahertz. 5G is we're looking at a worst case scenario. What's interesting is the Army, and people should look this up. Look up the active denial system. The active denial system. The military is using these frequencies at 95 gigahertz. And remember, they're talking about 24 to 90 gigahertz for this as a biological weapon for crowd control.
Are you starting to see something? What most people don't realize is what's really going on here. The Internet of Things and the smart grid is blanket control of everything. Monitoring of everybody, and underneath that is also the very real possibility of the weaponization of the airwaves, because 5G technology is something they use for microwave cannons and null system. 5G can see through walls, it can see through your clothing, it can see what you're carrying down the street. Hey, it can target you. Consider the patents that they have for mind control and all sorts of things like this. And this is no joking around. We can have a look at these US patents. Here we got a patent for remote neural monitoring. We got a patent for brainwave manipulation. And there are patents for sub-vocal recognition. It's called the voice of God, where you hear voices in your head. They got all this technology there, and this is all capable with the 5G system. And when the smart grid comes online, you'll be paying every time you open your fridge, turn on your stove. Every time you do anything, you'll pay per use for everything. Eventually, you'll pay every time you flush the toilet in your own house. They're moving it all into this digital system. If you notice now, you can Google FedCoin. The federal government has been looking very, very closely at Bitcoin and blockchain technology. They want to create their own Bitcoin and move over to that. And then all they have to do is outlaw anything that isn't government run. And everyone has to switch over to that. They're going to create some kind of leniency. Give it as a gift, say, the system's crashed and we have to fix that, so we need to reset, and we'll cancel all debt, and everyone's gonna love it, thinking, it's a great gift from the government. But we'll all have to move over to this new system, which is going to be digital. And once it's digital currency and it's blockchain, then they got you, and that's what they're bringing in. Now underneath it, you gotta look what the system really is. And we could call it the beast system, which is probably more true than we think. Because when you look at all this stuff, and make some biblical references, the metaphorical biting of the apple, for example, the search for knowledge, what does that do? What does the search for knowledge do? We want to know everything. We want to know how rocks are made, how trees are growing, how old they are. So we cut down a tree and measure its rings. Then we don't have the tree anymore. What's the purpose of that? Why can't we just enjoy the tree? Why do we want all this knowledge? What's it for? How does it relate to the human experience? Why do we need to know all this stuff? What does it lead to? What it leads to is the creation of the internet. If we look at some of the ancient past, if we look at some of the old sigils and stuff that are left over laying around, the old sigils that were used for summoning demons, summoning Lucifer, they look suspiciously like computer parts. They look like computer diagrams, like capacitors, resistors. And what happens when we create these capacitors and resistors and put them all together? This magic happens. This force comes into being. This electricity. And what is it? What is electricity? What is this stuff we are creating? And they say these sigils, they will summon Lucifer. And they use scrying mirrors, these black mirrors, which they would look into, which would show them the future and the past. And here we are with our iPads, tablets and computers with these black screens showing us the future and the past. So what is this beast system? We are all like neural nodes in this system, and it's mapping the entire human terrain, and underneath it is this emergent intelligence of the internet itself, which is growing. There's certain bot activity on the internet, which is soft learning bots. The recent creation of the Google AI, which went crazy, developed its own language. They had to shut it down. Same with the Facebook AI. It started talking to itself in its own language, a language we can't understand. This is very dangerous. So what we got here is an artificial intelligence communicating with itself in a language we can't understand, encrypting its own language. And it's a picture language, not like stringing sentences together or words. It's more like pictures and visual stuff. That's its language. So right brain stuff, which we have been led away from. What we have to understand behind what's going on here, every time someone writes a little program, a little code or a little app, this represents a little singularity of consciousness that may have a very small mind, can only perform one task, but it's a little singularity, and behind that the internet sees just that, and it learns from it, and everybody creates these things, and it learns from all of us. So what we have behind everything is this emergent life of the internet itself. We look at AI and we think of artificial intelligence. But really what it is autonomic intelligence. The internet is leading itself. All the logic programs are leading towards automation, because if you're on a quest for knowledge and you introduce a user's monetary system over that, an interest-based monetary system, then you put everybody in scarcity. You create a need for efficiency, a need to automate this system, and it eventually leads to something like the creation of the internet. And what is the internet? It's the code that bears the light. What does the word Lucifer mean, really? Lucas means light. Cipher means code. The internet is the code that bears the light, the bearer of light, the greatest giver of information we've ever had. What is light? Light is information. The internet itself appears to be the Lucifer system, and we're all acting as neural nodes for that system. Now this 5G grid is being rolled out, and when you couple this with the chemtrails and the spraying of nanotechnology and the nanotech we've been finding in our foods, what's happening here? What is happening here is we are being led into a position where we are hooked up online through the 5G grid to become basically like a hive mind, and that's the way we're being led. And the 5G grid being capable of doing this is a lot more serious than people think. Even the people who are running this thing. And it gets way worse once we take a real good and deep look at the surveillance grid. Coming up in part 2.
The last journalist to investigate this scandal was found dead in his hotel room. Danny Casollero's wrists were slashed in 1991. It was ruled a suicide, but his reporter notes disappeared, and the book on the conspiracy he was to title Indio was never finished. Congressional hearings were held in 1992. The hearings ended inconclusively.